great speaker today, and he is a friend of mine, is Scott Schutz. He is a trial lawyer who represents primarily plaintiffs in civil litigation. He has practiced law in California since 1986 and in South Dakota since 2009. He has more than 32 years experience handling cases for those who have suffered significant injury, monetary loss, or wrongful death in a variety of circumstances. Mr. Schutz was born and raised in South Dakota, and he attended University of South Dakota and University of Utah Business School, receiving a bachelor's in finance in 1982. He then attended the University of Utah College of Law and receiving his JD in 1985. Mr. Schutz was admitted to the California bar in 1986 and the South Dakota bar in 2009. He is admitted to practice in all of California and in all of South Dakota courts, and in Central, Southern, and Northern California divisions of the United States District Court, as well as the Western South Dakota division of the United States District Court as well. Mr. Schutz is a member of the State Bar of California, the State Bar of South Dakota, the American Board of Trial Advocates, H Street Lawyers, and the Pennington County Bar Association, and is a licensed broker in California, or by the California Department of Real Estate. In addition to practicing law, Mr. Schutz has a love of architecture, design, and building. In that vein, inspired by historical barn in Antelope Flats area below the Grand Tetons, he, in 2014, began construction on his own barn on his home just outside of Rapid City in Blackhawk. And believe me, it is fabulous. Although told by some that the barn is totally unnecessary, he nonetheless proceeded. In the joy of creating and in the belief that the barn would someday be used for people for fun events and the activities. Well, that day has come. And his unnecessary party barn, the UPB, is completed and is ready for those fun events. So today, Mr. Schutz is here to talk to us about the unnecessary party barn and answer any questions that we have about it. So let's give it up for Scott Schutz.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Melanie. I was a little long-winded on my intro that I wrote out for her. But as Melanie said, yeah, I am a trial lawyer by trade and have been doing it for many, many years. And before that, I grew up in Aberdeen, South Dakota. And as a child, I had a dream to be a cowboy one day, like a lot of little boys, I suppose. My mom grew up out by Milesville, and her mother had a ranch out there, and we'd go out there in the summertime. So that's where I got my love of the Western sort of culture and that type of architectural image. And then through travels, I was out in Wyoming, and there's a beautiful historical barn out there in Antelope Flats. And so I thought it would be kind of cool to build a barn one day that reflected that image. And so in 2014, that's what I started doing, is building a barn. The materials on the barn are all, for the most part, rehabbed material. The roof is leftover material in part from what I did on my house. And the poles that build the barn, the center poles were telephone poles that are 55 years old that were taken off the property when they switched them out. So I've sort of put that together as kind of part of the theme is using things that have been otherwise discarded. And recently I completed it to the point where I am wanting to rent it out to people. So that's what it's for. It is available to use for parties or weddings or receptions, reunions, that sort of thing. There's 2 camper pads there with full hookups. The back end of it has a patio on it that's almost the same size footprint of the barn itself, so it's very big. I'm building on the end of that patio an outdoor fireplace that will be very nice, and on the top of that I'm going to build a stack that's made of steel, and on the sides have a couple of hooks so that you could hang, make it in the image of a cross if you wanted to for that type of an event. Sort of a religious ceremony for a wedding or whatnot. Melanie's been out there Ashley's been out there. Ashley helps me with some of the social media aspects of it. And another friend of ours, Sherelle, is helping with some of the marketing and sales end of it. I'm in the process now of talking to people about the barn and the rally in particular, negotiating with a couple people on that end of it. And the reason I'm here today is to meet some new people, get the word out that it's there, it's available, it's a nice resource in the community. And from my perspective, it's on the upper end of what's available for those types of events around here. 3 miles north of the Harley dealership on Erickson Ranch Road. So if you follow that road out about 3 miles and take a right off Deadwood Avenue onto Erickson Ranch Road, it's a quarter of a mile up on the right-hand side. So it's close to town. It's all free, hardtop road all the way out there, so it's not way out in the sticks, and very available for whoever might want to use it. The upper area has a loft that I built out, and some of the images, that's a picture of it right there. It's real cool. That's the bed area up there. It's a queen-size bed, and I built it. It's sort of a Swedish pocket bed, they call it, and it's when you have a sloped roof like that, you can build it against the wall and build it in. I put the cupboards above for storage, and below are the drawers for other storage. It's very nice. It's got heating and air in it, similar to what you see if you travel to Europe, these little white units that are real quiet, and the compressors on the outside. You might see in some of the images a little white compressor on the outside of the barn. So it's very cool, and the ladder that goes up there is retractable, so you hit a button and it'll go up. So if you're having an event, that ladder is out of the way. And then when your event's over, if you're staying there that evening, you can let it down. So the couple that had their reception there earlier this year did that. They stayed there their wedding night and had a great experience, enjoyed it a lot. And the lower level, there's a kitchen area that has a fridge, microwave, sink, hot plate. There's a shower and bathroom down there. Can't see it too well in some of the images here, but it's set up that way. It's all rustic. I have plans to put a washer and dryer in there. It's plumbed for that. So I want to rent it out from time to time to those people that want to have a cool event and a nice place to stay that's relatively local, but seems like it's out in the wilderness. It sits on a knoll out there, so the views off there are very nice. Some of those you'll see that's the back patio. Looking back, that's a fire pit in the front. On that back where you saw that area going out that's stamped concrete, and it's a different color than the other, and I set that up so that when you're looking out the barn towards the back, it looks like an aisleway where you have seating on the sides, and then you'd have that fire pit on the end with a cross built into the stack, which is going to be kind of cool. This couple that wants to do their wedding there next spring, there's a little meadow behind. I don't know if the imagery will show it. There's probably I think there's one where it looks down on it from the loft. In the back there's a little meadow. They want me to mow that, and they want to do their wedding out there. So there's lots of places to do things, a lot of great places for photos. It sits on 220 acres, so it's a nice footprint out there for lots of different sorts of things. What you guys can help me with is just getting the word out and entertain any questions you might have about it, or questions or comments that you might have about how to better market it, better present it, better ways to speak of it, all that kind of thing. Thank you, Melanie, for inviting me today. Looks like a great organization of people that are similarly minded in their businesses and interests in our community. So thank you very much.
The first one is, what is the capacity of the building for receptions or things like that?
The folks that had their reception there this spring had 180 people, and they used the back area. They tented, and they put another tent in the parking area, and they did their food service outside. I think it could probably accommodate up to 200, but it'd be tight. The sweet spot would probably be 50 to 100. It would be very comfortable. I am in the process as well as building a custom tent on the back. So the back patio, I built it with eye bolts attachments, so there won't be poles and all that sort of stuff. It'll just be strap it down the tent. I'm going to build a balcony off that back loft, so you'll be able to walk out the window there and sit on a balcony. So I got some ideas. It's still in the process, but it's now at a stage where you could actually use it and be comfortable. For 180 people, what they did, and I suggested they do it, is have one honey pot for the guys, and then the toilet inside is for the ladies. And that way it's just not using the one facility so much. It's on a septic system, its own separate septic. The camper pads are in the parking lot, and they're big enough to accommodate any size camper, and hookups for the 50 or 30 amp to water. So it's got a lot of accommodations that way. The back patio, I suppose, depending on the weather, you could have your event out there. I do an event in the fall for breast cancer, which is close to me because of my mother, and I invite local artists to come and set up their wares and booths, and they do an open air, plein air sort of painting, and then they sell their things. We have food, live music, and invite people to come support that. So that would be another thing. It's September 22nd this year. We're going to do that event. Good opportunity to come out and check it out if you wanted to. So yeah, that kind of thing. The parking, which is always an issue, is there's a parking lot there that'll probably accommodate 15 cars. Down the road at the bottom is a big saddle with a field, and that's where all the people will park for a larger event. And then you'll see in some of those photos where they had the golf carts, they had 4 valet parkers, and they would have people come up, park, and then they'd bring them up the hill back and forth in the golf carts, which keeps all the traffic out of the area up above. And it's kind of fun for the guests, and they enjoyed that a lot.
So then my second question was, how often, do you want this rented out every weekend, or how many times per year are you hoping folks utilize it?
Well, I don't want it every weekend.
So this is a week of audio.
Frequency, I'm trying to just do 2 or 3 times a month, I suppose, over the busy type of the year would be fine. I don't want to have that sort of thing going on every weekend. I live close by there, and so it's more of I'm looking for higher end events, people that want to have a really different, nice place that otherwise isn't available. It doesn't have food service, so the events that I've had the food trucks come up. The wedding people had their own food service. They had an outdoor company come in and barbecue and do all the catering. Music, you can pick whatever kind of music. It's got electric all over the place, so plenty of electric juice for whatever your needs are. Some of the events I've had for live music, I have a stage in it that I built that's movable, so you could set your stage up anywhere. And I've done that on events, moved to different places. The DJ people, they set it up in one of the corners, have their DJ there all ready to go for their dance after the wedding. So regularly, but not all the time. It would be the answer, I think.
What was your inspiration for doing this? It's a beautiful project.
Well, thank you. The inspiration, I think, was, like I said, I kind of grew up with an interest in the Western sort of look. I started out building homes in life, and then one of the guys I was building with said, "You don't want to do this for the rest of your life," because it was one of those hot summers, and my dad was a lawyer, so I went to law school and did that. But I always liked building and the design, so I built a couple of homes in California, and then I came here in 2008 and started building this house that I have on the property there. And the barn idea, it was just traveling. I saw that beautiful barn out in the Antelope Flats. And I don't know if anybody's ever been out there. If you go to Teton, drive through the Antelope Flats, and you'll see the barn. And it looks a lot, the same imagery, the same style of barn. I don't know why I did it. People say that's totally unnecessary, so I just went with the name. It's an unnecessary party barn, UPB. It is. It's totally unnecessary. But I kind of wanted to rehab some of the things that were around there. I had a lot of things laying around after I built the house, and so that was kind of the inspiration of it. And a place to store things and just have events. I kind of want to. It's fun for me to see people having a good time. And so to have a place like that where they can come and have a good time is I get some reward out of that. So my job is a lot of traveling back and forth, and so this is kind of peaceful to come and build something. For me, it's a little bit of an escape. So.
It is a beautiful place. I can't wait to see it. I'm wondering how involved you get in the logistics of it. because I've dabbled in different careers I've had to, find venues, and all of a sudden you're asked about food, then you gotta deal with Bridezilla, and I'm just wondering, on that side, did you do that yourself?
Well, what I've done is I've incorporated the use of and help of two very talented people for that part of it. I'm more interested in building it and renting it. I don't want to be involved in the logistics of operating. I'll do that, but that's not really what I want to do. So Ashley, I've known her for quite some time, and so I incorporated her help and her company to help with some of the social media marketing. And then another friend of ours, Sherelle, is more of the concierge type person for the sales and hand-holding and helping with how to do it. So the event this last spring, they hired Sherelle, pay her by the hour, to help with the wedding cake, picking it up, running errands, doing all that sort of thing that a family might want or need on a facility that they're not familiar with. And coordinating with the catering people, the DJ person who they all need to come up, take a look at it ahead of time and kind of figure out where they're going to set up, where they're going to plug in, all that kind of thing. So that's what she did, and so that's how I do it. My vision of it would be you can do whatever you want there. It's a space for that. It's a cool space. You do what you want. If you want me to do it, then I've got Sherelle and Ashley to help coordinate that, and we'll charge for those services, or Sherelle will. So I mean, we could do it all, but they're going to pay more for that. And this last group did most of it themselves, and they were in with their whole family, set it up. They had a lot of fun doing that. And then they had their event, and the next day they had it all out of there, and it worked really slick. I can imagine nightmares, I suppose, if people don't show up to get things out and all that kind of stuff. But that's on the contract part of it, and getting a deposit and all that kind of thing. The legal end of it I'm familiar with, so I can handle all that kind of thing. And yeah, it's a lot of logistics. Building it, I built most of it myself. I had it framed up, but the rest of it I built with my nephews, and just over time, kind of little projects. I did all the tile work, plumbing, built the bar inside, everything. So it's, I know how to do it. It's kind of therapeutic for me to do it, and so I don't mind it. Solicit the help of some local contractors with concrete once in a while and that kind of thing. But for most of it, I have some good friends from Oaxaca, Mexico, and they came up here and helped me with some of the heavy lifting. Some of the heavy concrete stuff, digging the trenches, putting in some of the things that really took a lot of muscle and time. So, yeah. Any other questions?
How do you handle the cleanup aspect?
Well, what I'm doing is taking a deposit, and if they don't clean it up, then I'll pay somebody to do it and use the deposit for that. If they clean it up, then I'll give them their deposit back. That's kind of the way I'm doing it. And I'm thinking like $250 deposit for cleaning. And then it's just kind of a matter of documenting real well the condition when they take it, and if it's different when they leave and you need to correct some things and clean up some stuff, I hire somebody and they'll take it out of their deposit. If they break something, then that's part of the deposit too. If they break something greater than their deposit, well then then they've got some issues to deal with, I guess. But I think most people are good. You'll run into some bad apples once in a while, but I think for the most part, people are nice and do a good job of conducting themselves.
Scott, you mentioned, obviously besides the facility being hiring itself, what's your other differentiator? And I imagine it's probably price to try to keep and you're, like you said, you're not wanting to rent every weekend all year. So do you have sort of a priceless approach, or do you basically kind of being that it's flexible and they can do what they want with it? What's your approach?
Yeah, I'm still working that out because, the way I've listed it on the website, I've got some pricing on there per day, but I've found out in this first event, it's really a 3-day deal if you're having a big event, because they got to come in the day of or the day before to set it up. It's the day of the event, nobody's going to clean it up at midnight. So the next day is pretty much shot cleaning it up. So I've got to figure out the pricing on it, and I want to keep the price target high enough that it's not everybody up there. It's a unique venue. that people who really want to spend that kind of money and have that kind of space will pay, so that it's not, I don't want a list of people waiting to get in there in the sense that it's the best deal in town.
Which probably puts you in a position where you're not going to list the price on the website. I'm sure it's all.
Well, I did put it on there, but maybe I'll take it off. I don't know. I tried to put it out there, and
Because it's a slippery slope.
yeah. So I kind of asked around, what are these other venues charging? Can't really get an answer because nobody wants to really say, because they want to keep it negotiable. So I did put a price on there, and I think it was $17.50 a day, and then a half a day would be, I don't know what I put on there, something else. So that maybe that's a little low. I mean, I talking to somebody about the rally, and he was saying, and I said I want to rent it for the week, and he said, and I said I was thinking $17.50 a day, and he goes, is it 17,000? And he didn't bat an eye and go, yeah. That's what I said. No, I didn't. But so I don't know yet. I don't know what the pricing ought to be on that sort of stuff. If obviously there are people I know, I'd probably give them a little better deal because I know they're not going to destroy it and that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. So it's kind of feeling your way on that type of thing. It's I don't know what to do on that. I just want to. Got ideas in my mind, but you got to kind of play with that a little bit to see what ends up. One of the things I thought about is, if it's an event with 50 or more people, I'd like to have somebody from me on site, a facility rep or something. Don't have to call them security, but that's really what it would be, is somebody to kind of keep an eye on things so that there aren't people getting out of hand with, there's fireplaces up there, and there's wood up there, and I wouldn't want somebody building a bonfire and just kind of going nuts. You could burn the whole place down if it's dry, so I would have restrictions on no fires unless it's wet season. And with the wood and the fire pits, somebody might, if they're not being told.
Well, it's probably help with your guest experience too, to have somebody on site to ask.
Exactly, yeah, good idea. But same thought, yeah, somebody there that can kind of help them with questions. If something breaks down, who do you call? Hey, the toilet's clogged up, what do you do? The electricity went off, where's the fuse box? Those sorts of questions about things would be a good thing to have from my perspective, as opposed to somebody, well, let's just do this, or let's just do that, or that type of thing.
You were talking about suggestions for marketing and things like that. This would be a time commitment. Maybe you've already committed to doing these kinds of things, but do you have like a trifold or a flyer that you develop that you give out to people?
I have, they're in the process of being made. I'm making some bar coasters with my logo on it, and just some of the information about the website and who to call and all that kind of things. So my plan is to do some bar coasters with a trifold, and Sherelle's gonna go around like the wedding venue people, the party planning people, just to kind of get the word out that this is available where it is. I'm going to have a couple of mixer events out there and invite those people for wine and cheese, the catering people. They're all interested in being hooked up to another facility where they might get some business, so I'm sure they would be inclined to show up for some cheese and a little wine or a beer, and just to see the facility when it's all done and cleaned up, and then they'll know what they're dealing with. It's got a really nice fireplace in it, so it's a comfortable venue. I'm going to build on that back. There's a 12-foot movies, TV thing in there, 2 televisions, one up top. And so you can, I've done the Super Bowl party and stuff in there. That back door, they're both same size doors on the barn, and they both go up. The front one's automatic, the back one's manual. On the back one, I'm going to put glass on the outside, leave the door so it'll come up in the winter and it'll be glass. And then it'll be fixed glass on the top, but then it'll trifold, the bottom will still open all the way. I want to have it so it's available in the winter for events. And it's beautiful in the back in the winter. You look out and there's the meadow and the trees and all that kind of thing. So right now, you can use it in the winter, but it's kind of like being in a barn. It's kind of claustrophobic for me. It's big, but it's and cozy, but if you could open it up and see the glass and it's still warm, it'd be great. It's all in-floor heating, so it's constant heat year-round. The lower part isn't air-conditioned. but you open the doors and it's breezy and nice. Or if it was hot, I suppose what I've seen them do at these rally events is they hire these portable air conditioners. You could have one of those in there if you were there for the rally and you had 10 people or something and it was too hot. That's what I would do, is rent one of those and cool off that way.
The bridal shows are a fun way to network as well.
Yeah.
Good way to meet some people face to face and get some return on that.
Yeah, we talked about that too. Sherelle was gonna, but I gotta get the flyers done first, so she has something to hand them and talk about.
I have two questions. You have to tell us about the clown. And then secondly, who are your main competitors at this point in the area?
First question, the clown, for the last 4 years, I've done a Halloween party out there. So I will send out an invitation. That was the backdrop of one of the invitations. So I had that image. I put it on there, photoshopped it on there to make it look creepy, and then I put on there, come to the UPB for the Halloween event. So that's what that was.
And they're fun Halloween events.
Yeah. Get all dressed up, and we've had bands, and this last year they did karaoke, and get about 50 people in there all dressed up. But it's a good place to do that because nobody will see you looking like an idiot.
Unless they put it on Facebook.
Yes, unless they put it everywhere. And your second question, what was it again?
Who are your competitors?
The competitors, I don't think I have any competitors for this type of thing. There's the Cadillac Ranch up by Bellefouche, but you got to go all the way to Bellefouche to get that event. There's a place called the Bluebell or something up there in the hills. Bluebell Law. No, wait, that's down in Custer.
There's a place in Piedmont that is similar to this.
Yeah, there's one over there.
My niece did an event there.
Okay. There's a few of them around, and I haven't been to them. Probably a good idea to go look at them sometime and kind of see what it's all about. But back to the question about how often I want to do it. I really don't care, so I just kind of want to do my own thing and make it really nice. So at the end of the day, I want people to go there and go, wow, this is really a cool place. I really like it. This is unique. It's nice. And maybe somebody else has something better or different according to their eye. That's fine. But there is competition for that type of venue. Wedding people, they market themselves just as wedding people. I don't want to do that. I want to just be a place where they can do events. Down the road, if I continue to do this, there's these yurt ideas. I'd like to put a yurt in the back for workouts. People could come in and do a seminar for Pilates or yoga and stay there, bring in a group and do that kind of thing. That, I think, would be kind of interesting to do. Different sort of setup. There's lots of space for that. So, the little things down the road, if it pans out and I enjoy it. If it gets to be a pain in the butt and a nightmare, I'll not do it. So.
Any questions?
So right now, are you the point of contact if somebody wanted to rent it? The booking that is done for you?
If you could call me, but the phone number on the website goes to a little phone that Sherelle carries with her. So that's who you would get a hold of. But if she wasn't available, you can get a hold of me and we could, I'm there when I'm in town, I'm up there. So like Emily, the gal that's going to use it in June, she's been up there a couple times. She brought her sister last time, and because they're interested, they want to show their friends and probably get a little feedback, positive feedback or negative feedback on what they're planning to do. So at this point, I don't have any problem with any of that. If it got so busy that they're wanting to do it all the time, then Sherelle or somebody else could do that for them and check it out so they're comfortable with what's going on and what they want to do for their event. But yeah, for the point of contact right now, I think would be, I would consider it Sherelle. There's the website. contact@theupb.com is the website, and I think Ashley'd be monitoring that, or Sherelle, and then Ashley'd get a hold of Sherelle and say, hey, we got somebody interested, it's so-and-so, and here's their contact information. And if Sherelle wasn't picking up, Ashley would call me, and we'd talk to them and see what they're interested in and what they want to do.
And then sort of piggybacking off of the other question I asked in terms of cleanup, if you had to clean it up yourself, do you hire that out? Do you just assess?
Well, it depends on how much it is. I mean, if it's a little bit, then I'd probably just do it. But if it was a lot of stuff, I'd find somebody that can do it. You know. My interest is in them cleaning it up, or if they want me to clean it up, I'm going to charge them, and that's fine. But you know, just going to keep their deposit if they don't want to clean it up, and then I'll hire somebody to get it done.
How long did this project take, and how interactive were you in the actual construction of it? It seems like you have a lot of materials available to you to repurpose.
Yeah, most of the construction I did myself personally, except the really heavy the concrete stuff. Like I put in the. You know, I'd never done this before, so you learn a little bit about it. The heating in the floor system, I'd never done that before, and that's quite a process. You got to get the gravel, you got to get it compacted, you got to get it the right depth, and then you put 2 inches of high density foam on that, and then on top of that you run all your water coils. You got to staple them down with this particular machine, and then you put your rebar over that. Pour concrete over that. It's got to have the angles to the drain, you know, so it's a lot of it. But I had a buddy that had done it in his shop, so he kind of was there helping me, telling me what to do and how to do it. But putting it all in, it was mostly me and him a little bit. And then I had some people come in and do the pour, the concrete pour, because I just, you know, that takes a little skill, and I don't have all the equipment. You need a crew for that. So that, and then, but around the parking lot, I put in a stem wall. It's about a 4.5, 5 foot stem wall that goes down to, so I wanted that parking lot to be leveled off because it sat on a hill. And so I put that wall in, but my guys from Oaxaca did that, built the forms just out of plywood, and we poured that. And it turned out really nice and straight for, you know, not having all the fancy forms. And same thing with the patio in the back. They poured all the walls for that, and the planter and stuff that you see in some of those images. But the pour itself, I had another couple guys that I know come in and do the pour. And the stamping, they did that. So it was broken up. The electrical work, I did all the running of wire, but I had an electrician come in and do all the hookups, make sure it was done right. Plumbing, I put in all the plumbing. I had a plumber come in to do the final check to make sure nothing was leaking. So, you know, to a point I can do it. The tile work I did, I wouldn't do it again. I would never build a bathroom again. Those tile guys deserve every penny they make. But that's a lot of work. Tile and cutting tile and, oh, God. So yeah, it's an interesting experience. You learn a lot about it. So then you kind of have a pretty good idea for any other project, what you should be charged and what's going on with that stuff. So it was a good experience. But like I said, I started out doing that as a kid, and back then, the contractor I worked with started at the basement, and they did every trade all the way to the roof. So you got a pretty good sense of what everything was, as opposed to these days, you might work for a sub, and you kind of know either concrete or electrical or framing or drywall, but you don't have a good feel for all of it, roofing, and all that sort of stuff. So I had a good experience, I had a broad experience as a kid, which helps in these sort of projects. So yeah, I had some help. My nephews helped me a little bit, but a lot of it was just, you know, if you get up in the morning and do a little every day, a lot gets done over not too long a period of time. But you have to get up and do a little bit on it constantly, whatever you're working on. Otherwise, it just doesn't get done. 2014, I started, and I think the first was I had the company come in and put up the big. When they cut out the telephone poles, they wanted to come across my property instead of use the easement. And the easement is up and down. So I negotiated with them and said, if you fix my road and bring me the logs and cut them to size, we're good. And they said, deal. So they cut those big logs, the telephone poles, to the sizes that I needed. You see 2 of them there. I needed the center 4 and I needed the outer 4. And so they cut all those for me, and then I had a contractor come in and do the footing and put those posts in the frame, and then I took it from there and did the rest of it. So those poles were huge, and there was no way I could manipulate them myself, so that I had done. Well, I think the main purpose in me coming here today was to get the word out a little bit about my facility, the UPB, and its availability, what it's all about. And what you and the community can help me with is just spreading that word to your family and friends that might be looking to do an event someplace that's unique and nice and different than what else is available. It's easy to get to, it's not too far from town, so there's plenty of ability for your group to stay at a local hotel and use this event as the place where the main party happens. And there's lodging facilities there I could probably accommodate 6 to 8 people. I've got 2 suites in the basement of my home. There's the suite up above in the loft, so if you wanted to do that, that's available. So that's what you can help me with, I suppose, is just keeping me in mind and this facility in mind if you hear of people that are looking to do a nice event. So thank you very much for showing up and listening to me and taking the time. Appreciate it.